Everybody, I'd like to welcome you guys to the University of Maryland B Squad webinar and evening with Beta Hops. We are here tonight to discuss some of the products that they have. I'm sure you've probably run into a few of them by now. If not, you're probably going to learn a lot more about them than you knew before. Just a couple housekeeping issues. We are recording this for future playback. This will allow you guys that are on it to catch up later if you have questions. And then if you haven't, or so for those that are not here, this recording will be available for them to watch. So just have to let you guys know that we are recording. They are going to be posted on our Facebook, our webpage, and on our YouTube page. So they'll be pretty easy to find. We do not directly endorse, the University of Maryland does not directly endorse the products featured in this webinar. The recommendations that we do make are based on current research findings and not influenced by the manufacturers at all. And the UMD B Squad was not compensated in any way for this webinar. We invited the manufacturers to come talk to you guys because we had a lot of questions from the beekeepers on the proper usage of the different products. And so we figured the best way, instead of us trying to go through each individual one, is to have the people that actually created these products and that work with the manufacturers to come on and talk to you guys. And so we had a very good talk last week. I foresee a great talk this week as well, and we'll continue this on. We do have more recordings or more webinars coming up in February and March. With different manufacturers. So definitely, if you haven't registered for those before, go ahead and register now. You can go to the umdbsquad.com and go to the webinars page, and we have links for all of that. Please register ahead of time. We do have a cap on them, so we want to make sure that you get your spot. And so with that, I do want to say, if you are inclined to and you enjoy the information that you're receiving here, we are actively soliciting for donations. Everything that you donate goes directly into making the programs that you see here and other educational programs, which we hope to come out with a lot more over the next few months. So keep an eye out for that. We will have this at the end of the presentation as well, so you can see that. And if you have any questions, you can always email us at bsquad@umd.edu. And finally, I want to direct you guys, if you haven't seen them before, to the Honeybee Health Coalition's different guides that are available. They have Best Management Practices Guide, Tools for Varroa Management, and a Varroa Online Decision Tool. So if you haven't seen these yet, I highly encourage you to go to the website and to look them up. They are an invaluable resource, and they have lots of great information in them. And again, if you need any of these links or anything like that, please contact me, and I'll be glad to provide those to you. So the speaker, and Fabian, you're gonna have to remind me of the correct pronunciation of your last name. I am horrible with that.
Fabiana Ahumada.
Excellent. So Fabiana is a bee research, has been in the industry for over 20 years, has a phenomenal history in the industry. She had helped develop Megabee and also Hopguard and the different formulations of that, and that's what she's gonna primarily talk about this evening. I know she has worked closely with various parts of the industry to develop integrated pest management and Varroa control. And so that is something obviously that we are in dire need of. And so we thank you guys, we thank you very much for that, Fabiana. Without any further ado, let me stop sharing my screen and I'll let you go ahead and start sharing yours, and you can take it away. I think we have about 20 people just joining, so they came here at the last second.
Okay. Okay, so let me know if it's sharing now, Mark.
You're actually in presenter mode, so if you exit out of it and just click the screen.
Oh, it worked before.
I know it does this sometimes. I don't understand quite why.
Okay, let's see. Are you still sharing your screen?
No.
No,
I am not.
Okay, so how do we make this work?
So go ahead and stop sharing your screen real quick.
Okay.
We're sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. We had it fixed before, but for some reason it's not wanting to work right now. So if you share your screen and then click on the screen, not the program, that should allow it to come up and be done right.
Okay, so that's what I'm sharing.
Okay.
Let's see if it works this time. I hope so.
And if not, I think we can go ahead with it and we'll be okay.
I think we're good, aren't we?
Looks great. Perfect.
Perfect. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mark, for having me tonight, and thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure for me to be here and speaking about Hopguard, like another natural control for Varroa mites. As Mark mentioned, I've been in the industry for a while, and tonight I will be focusing mostly on Hopguard. I will walk you through the development of Hopguard, the evolution, the different applications, and why and when we use this product. To give you a little bit of a background, what the company is, BetaTec Hop Products is a division of the company John A. has. It's an R&D and sales company that we use hop products beyond the brewing industry. We use it in the ethanol industry, we use it in sugar, we use it in yeast, and of course we use these hop products for bees to control Varroa mites. The company John A. has, it's been in the hop industry for over 200 years. They grow hops, they process the hops, so they are very knowledgeable with hops by itself and also different applications and using of the hops. Some of the uses of the hop is in the hop acid, hop extracts, and going into beyond the application of the brewing industry. The company around 2005, I would say, or a little earlier, they tested different hop acids to control plant pests, specifically spider mites in foliar applications, and they found that it was efficacious. They needed to work more on the formulation, but they found it was an interesting way to apply these products more in the entomology area. And around in 2006, 2007, when the colony collapse disorder was coming into the industry, and then Varroa mite getting into being the trouble for colony losses, mostly, they thought that maybe one of these hop acids that they had an effect on this plant pest could be used into Varroa. And for that reason, at the end, over many years, we developed Hopguard. What is Hopguard? So Hopguard is a natural mite treatment. It's a hop beta acid solution. It's a stabilized solution. It's made with GRASP listed products, means they're all food grade. It's a contact biopesticide that is delivered in the hive using carbon strips, that they are saturated in this hop mixture, and while the bees are physically rubbing and touching on the strip, they deplete the liquid from the strip. And when the strip dries, the bees chew the carbon and remove it from the hive. Exhibits a good mite mortality. It's a contact application, so it works on foraging mites. The mites are on the bees, not under the cells. We call it environmentally safe. It's made out of food-grade products, so we don't expect to have any impact on the environment, at least in the near future.
Fabiana, if I could get you to get a little closer to the mic, we're having a little trouble hearing you.
Thank you.
Much better, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for saying that. So the other, what I was going to say is that also stimulates hygienic behavior because of the nature of the delivery system being a cardboard, that it stimulates the bees to clean up the hive, not only to remove the product, but to clean up the hive a little bit more efficiently. And also this product, because it's based out of natural products, natural ingredients, it can be safely used during the honey flow. So how did we get here? So I explained to you what the company does, what the product is, but how did we get from a little hop cone all the way to a cardboard strip placed into a beehive? Well, just to give you a little bit of background, but not going into much of the chemistry, this picture shows it's a cross-section of the hop cone, and the yellow little globules that you see there, those are the euclidine glands that they contain these hop acids. They have the alpha acids and they have the beta acids. what we focus on is the beta acids, is those acids that they are effective on controlling Varroa mites. So with that, the company contacted the USDA QSOM-B lab because they did a lot of research on honeybees, and they started to work on a project together, and I was there and I was involved in the project, and we did a lot of screening, in vitro screening of different acids and different compositions, different formulations, different concentrations. So there is a lot of research behind a little cardboard strip with hop acids to put it in the hive. So it's the kind of work that we did is tedious work, but it's necessary because we really needed to determine the efficacy, if there is any impact, first of all on the bees, if there is any toxicity on the bees, and also how effective it will be on the mites. So as you can see in the pictures, we get the bees, we put a little dot of the product on them, they replace the mites on top there. So there is a lot of in vitro and lab work that goes behind the development of the product before we get it into the final version. We also, what we did is measure the residue of the product. Once we finished the lab experiments and all the in vitro trials, so we moved into developing a delivery system. We tested a different type of media, and we ended up using the cardboard, which is the one that it was the best way to deliver the product into the hive. So once we had a delivery system, we tested in the hive, and we collected honey samples and bee samples. The honey samples were collected from the honey supers, even though the strips are placed in the brood chamber, because that's mostly where the mites are. We collected honey from the honey supers. We sent it for beta analysis. There was no beta detected in the honey supers. We tested honey from the frames where the strips were placed, and as you can see, there were little levels of beta acids on those samples, 0.5 parts per million, particularly under the strip. And we collected live bees that they have been in contact with the strip, and we'll send them for analysis to determine how much product was on those bees. That information, the honey, the residue in the honey and the product on the bees gave us a lot of information in terms of how the product is behaving and moving around in the hive, and also how efficacious that will be on the mites, depending on how much product it was on the bees and for how long the strips were releasing product from the cardboard strip onto the bees and the hive. A lot of experimental research has been done at different places. We worked a lot with the QSOM-B lab. We did all the testing, and then we did a lot of work with different also universities or USDA facilities, but also work with many beekeepers, commercial beekeepers in different parts of the country, just to test these products and see if there was any different applications for them depending on where they were located. As you can see pictures up there on the left up corner, those are colonies into the almond orchards with the testing during the almond pollination. Down below the picture in the center is there are colonies in blueberries and raspberry farms, also in California and different times of the year. So a lot of research has been done to collect the efficacy of the data. And the way we were measuring the efficacy was, as you see, Henry is holding a sticky board, is the mite drop, but we also did the alcohol washes. So the sticky boards, they give you a sense of the mite drop, how many mites you have on the colony, and once you put a treatment, how effective it is. The alcohol wash gives you, it's a small sample size, so it gives you an idea of the infestation that you have, kind of a percent infestation that you have in the hive. Not to bore you with a lot of data, I just want to show this is a representation of the efficacy of the product on on the hive. So these are two different colony sets that they were treated with Hopguard. The orange bars represent the pre-treatment. So the pre-treatment mite drop was about 150. And after we put the treatment in there, we put sticky boards. And 2 days later, we picked them up. And the mite drop was around 1,400, 1,600, this one, and this one around 1,300. So there are a lot of mites in the colony. So the pre-treatment sticky boards gave us an indication that there were mites in the colony, but after we put the treatment, we could really see that those colonies were really, really in trouble. The other study that we did is just to show you data that we were looking for. The question was, if you use Hopguard during the honey flow to treat for mites in the spring and the summer, will that have an impact on the honey production? Will that have an impact on the foraging behavior of the bees? And it turns out it didn't. This chart is part of a longitudinal study that we did with a commercial beekeeper in Texas, where we treated colonies from the spring all the way to the fall. And we treated the colonies during the honey production. So we marked those colonies, did the honey extraction, and the difference was not significant. So colonies treated with Hopguard produced the same amount of honey as colonies that they were not treated with Hopguard. So Hopguard did not affect the foraging behavior and did not affect the bees or the honey production in those colonies. The other study that we did was to work with the queen breeding, with the queen breeders. There are a lot of queen breeders in California, and Pat Stoyers and his wife, we met them many beekeeping conventions. At one of the conventions a couple of years ago, we talked about Hopguard and how can they use that product that is gentle and natural on the bees. Queen breeders, they really are in trouble if they cannot really control their mites, because they need the drones, and the drones need to be strong and healthy for them to be able to produce good queens. So we set up a study with them where they tested different products. They tested Amitraz and they tested Hopguard. We provided the product for them, and they did all the testing. Because of the Hopguard, the strips of Hopguard, they don't release product as long as the Amitraz strips. So we did 3 consecutive treatments to make sure that we capture the same time period as Amitraz. And there was another set of colonies of untreated colonies. So after the colonies were treated, they monitored those colonies because they have to wait until those drones mature. And they collected the drones and they were sent to Dr. Dave Tarpey to do the drone analysis. And the results showed that the sperm viability drones were collected before the treatment and after the treatment, and the sperm viability of the Hopguard treated colonies was exactly the same as the untreated colonies. So there was no impact of sperm viability. Hopguard did not have any negative impact on the sperm viability of the drones from treated colonies. Another application, another area of the beekeeping industry is bee packages. Many beekeepers, commercial beekeepers, sideliners, hobby beekeepers, they buy bee packages. And we tested the effect of Hopguard of that because it's kind of the perfect and ideal situation. Hopguard is a contact application, so it works better. So it has a higher efficacy when there is less brood if we're talking on the hive. If we're talking on a bee package, is the perfect situation. There's no brood in there, just bees and a queen. So we worked with a large package producer, bee package producer in California, and he was very helpful with us. He donated the packages. He prepared the packages for us in order to be able to put a sticky board and to be able to measure the percent of mite mortality. So we did 2 pounds and 3 pounds of packages, that's shown in the graph, and we did a different number of strips. The reason we did that is because the Hopguard strips are 17 inches long, and the bee packages are short, so we had to cut the strips in half. So they're either 2 halves, 3 halves, or 4 halves of strips. So In both situations, in the 2 pounds and 3 pounds, the percent of mites, the percent mortality of mites per package was 98 to from 95 to 98%. So it was very efficacious. The product was very efficacious when the bees are in contact with the product and the mites have no place to go, just to be there. The other thing that we did, this was 40 packages of each. The other thing that we monitored was the queen health. So the queen, we kept those strips inside the packages for 2 days, and all the queens in both either the 2 pound or the 3 pound packages, they were alive. So there was no negative effect on the queen or the bees that they were taking care of the queen during treatment. Hopguard, like any other product, goes through different steps and evolutions. So we went through the evolution. The first development of the product, the first generation, was Hopguard. It was the picture on the left showing a cardboard strip, but it was a flat cardboard strip that it was able to hold product to get saturated with the hop mixture, but didn't last very long. So it dried in maybe 3, 4, 5 days, depending on the climate, depending where you are in the country. So it was too hot and too dry, it dried too quickly. So we went back to the drawing board, not with changing the formulation or the concentration, because we know that the formulation that we have and the concentration that we have is exactly what we need to, but we needed a cardboard strip that will be able to hold more liquid. So we went all the way through the picture on the right, which shows a cardboard strip with a corrugated side and a flat side. It's also, the strip is a little bit more sturdy than the previous generation. And these strips are custom made for us because we wanted to make sure that the cardboard that we use and the glue that we use on those strips is food grade and will be safe for the bees. So that's part of being a natural product for itself for us. It's not only that we're using the plant and hop-based product, but also the delivery system. We really took care of that, making sure that it will be safe for the bees as well. Through the different steps, we went through Hopguard 2, and then, of course, we had to go back. Being scientists, we have to go back and rework the delivery system again and trying to make sure that it would last a little longer. The Hopguard 2 is a good product too, but still it wasn't, the strips were not staying moist as long as we wanted to. So we went back to the drawing board and worked with different beekeepers again here in Florida. I'm based out of Florida. And we worked with beekeepers in California, queen breeders in California, with the USDA as well, to test and develop the Hopguard 3. That's the new generation, the new product that we have in the market. Basically, this picture is to show you what we were looking for, is how long the strips will remain moist and wet in the hive. At the bottom of the pictures is the Hopguard 2 strips that after 2, 3 days, 14 days, as you can see, the pictures show that in Hopguard 2, after 14 days, the strips were completely dry. The bees chew it, and one side of the strip is showing the mylar that is keeping the cardboard together. And the Hopguard 3 strips, after 14 days, the strips are not completely dry, and the bees are chewing some of it, but they're still on the corrugated side. There is still some liquid in it. So it really increases the efficacy having the strip to stay moist and wet longer in the hive, delivering product as long as we can. Hopguard 3, we had it registered with the EPA last year. Actually, yes, in 2020. We got it registered, and it's for sale, and it comes in 2 different packages. It's a small package with 10 strips and a larger package with 24 strips. As it's shown in the picture, it's a cardboard strip, and you insert that in the brood frames, and the bees will have to physically rub against it and touch it and get in contact with the product to move it around. Why we think Hopguard fit into the IPM program? Because first of all, beekeepers need another tool. They need another tool in their toolbox to fight Varroa. And if you rely on only one thing, as we've seen over the years, it's a recipe for trouble. And if we can provide something that is something a little soft, that is safe for the bees, that is natural product, that can be part of the IPM, we think that Hopguard can really fit into that category. It can really be used in bee packages, as I use the data. Also can be used in top bar hives, even though the strips are a little longer, they have to be placed over 2 frames, but can be used in top bar hives. It's safe to use during the honey flow. As I show, it doesn't contaminate the honey, and it doesn't prohibit the bees from foraging, doesn't affect the foraging behavior of the bees. It can be used in split colonies, which is a perfect situation in the spring when there's little brood in the colony. Queen breeders, we saw that it's safe for the queen breeders to use, that it doesn't have a negative effect on the drone sperm viability. And also in cold storage. Why do I mention cold storage? Because beekeepers, especially commercial beekeepers, they're always evolving. They have to evolve with time, with the situation, to keep up with the mites, to keep up with change in weather. And many beekeepers really are struggling to get their colonies ready to go to the annual pollination. If we are still experiencing more than 40% of losses, that is not sustainable. So many beekeepers are getting more and more into the cold storage, especially beekeepers that they have thousands of colonies, that they use those colonies for pollination. The cold storage, overwintering in cold storage, one of the benefits is because it costs less to put your bees in cold storage rather than overwintering outdoors, where you have to feed those bees, you have to check on the bees, you have to treat for mites. Also, to mitigate the climate changes effect, when we have years that the weather is too warm in the fall and the bees keep flying, but there is not adequate forage for the bees, you have to supplement feeding. So the cold storage has many benefits for the commercial beekeepers to mitigate the winter losses and have the colonies a little stronger and healthier to go to the annual pollination. And the other one is to mitigate the Varroa mite migration, which is the biggest problem that beekeepers can have, especially in the fall when the weaker colonies are getting robbed by stronger colonies and vice versa. Not vice versa, but weaker colonies get robbed by the stronger colonies, and then those colonies ended up collapsing and getting the mites. The stronger colonies get the mites from the weaker ones. So knowing this, we worked with the Tucson lab and with the commercial beekeeper on overwintering bees on cold storage. So we have 2 sets of colonies, one treated with Apiguard, that beekeeper used Apiguard as his mite treatment, and we used the Hopguard 3. So colonies in both treatments, where the frames of bees were checked in September and treated in September twice. And they were put into the cold storage in October, where we measured the frames of bees, and they remained in the cold storage until January. We took them out in January. They went to pollinate the almonds. The frames of bees were the same for both groups in January, but the interesting thing was in March, when after the almond pollination, the Hopguard 3 colonies had 1 more frame of bees than the Apiguard colonies. We also measured the frames of brood in both set of colonies in September before they went to the cold storage. Back in January were the same, and after the almond pollination, the Hopguard colonies, the Hopguard 3 colonies, show that they have at least 1 extra frame of brood in those colonies. We also calculated the percent survival, and from in October when they went to the cold storage, in January when they came out, and in March when they finished the almond pollination. And the Hopguard colonies had a higher percent survival than the Apiguard colonies. So being having this treatment in there, it also helps the bees with the hygienic behavior as well, and keeping the colonies a little healthier. So we know that it has some other benefits for the colonies, that it will help the colony not only to combat the mites, but also help with the hygienic behavior in the hive. So why is it important to treat for colonies, treat the colonies, and when? So this graph shows the population growth of the mites and of the bees. So as you can see, if we go from January all the way to December, so they are not really growing at the same time, but there is a time when they just overlap, and the difference becomes so big. So in the month of August and September is when the mite population is peaking, but it's exactly the same time when the colonies are making the winter bees. So it's a very critical time to treat for mites. So we recommend it. You should treat for mites in spring, January, February, and March, whenever you are in your weather allows. Then you can do another treatment in the summer to bring those mite down, but it's very critical to reduce your mite levels in the fall, because if you don't control the mite levels in August and September, when those colonies are making the winter bees, the chances are that your colonies, the colonies will not survive the winter, no matter if you put them overwinter in cold storage or if you leave it outside, and if you feed them and treat them. If you do it too late, if you do the treatment too late in the season, it will be too late to salvage the damage that the mites did in the colonies. What is the Hopguard? Well, it's a natural product to control the mites. The strips are biodegradable. As I mentioned, they are made of cardboard that is food grade. The product is food grade. After the strips are getting depleted with the product, they're getting dry, the bees chew it, so you can see it in the bottom picture. It's a little debris of the cardboard strip where the bees remove it. Leaves no residue in the hive. It's safe to use during the honey flow, and it has wide range of uses, as I show the data from the queen breeders, from bee packages, from commercial beekeepers. So there is a wide range of uses of this product in the industry, and you can use it different time of the year as well. So how do you apply it in the colony? You put it into the brood frames. The dosage is 1 strip per 5 frames bees in the brood center. The treatment duration, well, the strips should remain moist and wet in the hive from 12 to 14 days. The time of the year is spring, summer, fall. I kind of underline the summer and fall is because that's when my populations are really peaking. A few years ago, we focused, I remember that we focused more on the fall, but now we know that the mites are becoming so aggressive and so good at reproducing themselves at different time of the year that if you have a high mite population, a summer treatment is helpful as well. The higher efficacy is when you apply 2 or 3 consecutive treatments 2 weeks apart. And why is that? Because it's a contact application and it targets the mites that are on the bees, not under the cap cells. So if you have higher mite counts, 1 treatment will not do it, especially if you have brood in the summer, because you control the mites that are on the bees, but then bees are emerging and so are mites and being in that window. So if you have higher mite counts for a higher efficacy, apply 2 or 3 consecutive treatments 2 weeks apart. And it's always good to check your mite levels and keep them under control. Do your checks before you do the treatment and after you do the treatment. And it's useful to know what your mite levels are and you can do a little bit of data analysis if you want to just keep track in your numbers at different times of the year, and you can see the peaks, and you will see that in August, September, October, where they're peaking. That's when they're in trouble. The colony will be in trouble if you don't treat for mites, whatever treatment you use, but you have to use a treatment to control the mite levels. So this is a video to show how the product works, how it's applied in the colony? Okay. Okay, I'm sorry about that, but it doesn't seem to be working. We'll check that. Okay. I apologize for that. I don't know why it's not working. I will send that to you, Mark, the video, and then
absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, now it is. Okay. So this is a 24 package that you open, and the strips are folded in half. The strips are 17 inches long. So you remove the supers and you insert it in the root chamber. Just push it down over the frames. This is a 10 framer, so we're using 2 strips. And we are just spacing it between 2 frames of the strips. So the bees will have to physically grab and touch the strip. And then you close it back up. I'm glad it worked. So if you would like to have more product information, please visit our website, betatech.com/Hopguard, Hopguard 3. You will find Hopguard information in there. And also we have a few pages with the frequently asked questions. I know many questions came to Mark already, and I will address those now. And I'm sure there will be some of the questions there. And you can find on our website as well. The product is sold, we do not sell the product, it's sold through Monday. We specialize on doing the hop resting and the hop extract, and Monday makes the packages and they sell it. And here is my contact information if you would like to have any questions that I didn't cover or get more information about the product. Please feel free to send me an email. I'll be more than happy to answer the question for you anytime. And I always like to end this presentation with this picture, because to me, it kind of brings everything together. Because we all beekeepers and we understand the connection between these, but sometimes when you give this presentation to a little bit more broad audience, it doesn't really connect that when we go to the grocery store and we buy raspberries or we buy almonds and we just get this little boxes, these plastic boxes, that I do that myself. But if we don't know the story behind it, it's hard to make a connection. So I just put the beekeeper in there, and the hard work that all beekeepers do for us, for everybody to have the food that we like, to eat the honey, and enjoy everything that we like to cook with or to eat with. So there is a connection here, and that's my thank you to the beekeepers.
Thank you so much. That was really informative. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. We've got some questions from the participants. I guess I should start my video too. We did have a little issue with the audio. You weren't totally clear throughout it, so I'm not sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I think we all got the gist of it and everything. So.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. What do you think could happen? It could be the computer, the fan is running.
It's possible. I don't know. I mean, you were there, but just a little bit garbled. But it was good information. I think we're okay with that. Okay, so starting out with some beekeeper questions. I think you answered a majority of these, but I think it wouldn't hurt just to go back and clean up the rest. And then we have some great questions in the chat. So the first question is, and this is one I always like to ask, is how long after the package is open does the product last?
That is a great question. These are hop acids, and they are very sensitive to the environment. So they have the tendency of oxidizing. So after you open the package, if you're not going to use that package right away, put it in a Ziploc bag and keep it in the fridge or in a cold place. So you can keep it like that for up to 2 months. 2 months. I could stretch it 3 months, but no more than that.
Okay.
So,
and that's a great answer. And also it kind of loops back into what you were saying before as far as testing for your mites. And so if you are holding a product for longer and you use it and you test your mites and it wasn't effective, perhaps you stored it for too long. So keep that in mind, a couple months in a cool, dark place, tops. But otherwise, you'd probably want to use all the strips as quickly as you can just to get the best efficacy.
absolutely.
Next one, and this one is becoming more and more relevant with the smaller scale beekeepers, but what is the application rate for medium brood frames and in both 10 and 8 frame configurations?
Okay, so the medium brood frames, they're a little shorter than the regular frames. So for that, the strips are 17 inches long. So what you need to do is they will have to go over 2 frames in that case. So if, the recommendation is 1 strip per 5 frames of bees. So in your case, you can probably, between 8 and 10, you can do 2, but if they're going over 2 frames, depending on how many frames of bees you have. Because if you have a 10 framer or 8 framer and you only have 5 or 6 frames of bees, you just put 1 strip in there, right?
Okay.
But for the shorter frames or the medium ones, they will have to go over that, or they will overlap. But if they overlap, if you put up just over 1 frame, they will touch the bottom of the other one, so the strip will not be laying flat.
Okay.
Because it's way too long.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. So laying it over the top, over 2 of the frames, and it'll shorten the distance that the strips go down into the box, but will also make up for that extra length. And I think you covered this already, but just to reinforce it, what are the best time or times of the year to treat with Hopguard 3?
So it will be the spring when there is less brood in the hive. You can do a controlled treatment in the summer, but definitely in the fall. Depending where you are in the country, you'll never broodless, especially here in Florida where I'm at. So in that, you get a little bit of winter here, but you have brood. So in that case, you need to do this consecutive treatment, 2 or 3 consecutive treatments to make sure that you capture at least 1 brood cycle or 1.5 brood cycle.
Okay. So yet again, bee math is an important thing here. You want to make sure that you're covering that full spread of the cycle of the bees under capping. So great answer. What is the upper limit of the ambient temperature to treat at? And this question came in from one of my beekeepers out in Texas, as they were looking for products to use during the peak heat during the summer, where it can exceed 90 degrees plus. And obviously in Florida, they had that as well. So.
Yes, it can be used. We have to put a range of temperature in the label between 50 and 90. And why is that? We needed to put it for specific reasons by the EPA. We needed to put a range in there. It can be used when the temperature is higher, but because the strips have a very hoppy scent, when it's hot and humid, especially in Texas or anywhere that you are in the country in the summer, make sure the entrance is wide open. And if you have a screen bottom bar, make sure it's completely open. You can add a spacer or a rim under the lid to increase a little bit more space, because some bees will have the tendency of fanning, trying to remove the hoppy scent from there. So they will not be bearding or going outside. So if you are treating under high temperature and humidity or high temperature and dry climate, make sure that the entrance is wide open, a space or a rim under the lid, and just to keep that air flowing better in the hive for the bees.
Okay, excellent. And then this is a question that we get a lot with majority of the treatments. What kind of impact on queen and drone fertility and longevity does the product have, and has it been tested long term? And I think you covered that in your talk as well.
Yes, we did have that for the drone fertility, that we didn't see any negative effect on that. On queens, what we did with queens, a study that we did with the Tucson lab a couple of years ago, was we wanted to know if when you put the treatment in there, if it affects the queen egg laying, and it did not. The queen will not be laying right away where the strip is, but after a day or so, she gets used to and she lays on the side. When the strip is getting a little drier, she can go under the strip and lay eggs under the strip, but there is no negative impact on queen egg laying or egg development.
Okay. And this is another one, especially with the science kind of evolving on this, but is the synergistic effects of the AI in the strips versus, or put together with other environmental chemicals or agricultural chemicals, I guess I should say, including fungicides, which seems to be a big one these days. Have you researched that at all, or have any reports on any synergistic effects?
Yeah, we have not done that. We haven't really done putting Hopguard and some other things in the colony at the same time, because it would be very hard to determine if there is any positive or negative effect in the hive with that. You probably wouldn't know where is it coming from. Mm-hmm. We have not mixed formula-based. We have not mixed any of the hop acids with different other chemicals. We did not that. We just used the hop acids. But the only thing that we did is every time we had to feed either sugar or pollen supplements, we were able to do that while we're using the product. We have not tested any other combination of the Hopguard with fungicides or other chemicals.
Okay. And then a question that came in on chat, because I think it's all the ones we had the preliminary questions. It's from SD, says, my beekeeping catalog that says that 3 treatments can be applied per year. Can you please clarify?
3, it's 4. With Hopguard, I thought, no, I didn't mention that. Yes, with Hopguard 3, we have 4 treatments per year. That's what we have on the label approved by the EPA. Okay. So you can use that at different time of the year. You can use 2 in the spring and 2 in the fall, or 1 in the summer and 3 in the fall. We cannot tell beekeepers how to do that and when to do it, because that depends on your mite levels. But that is, you have 4 times a year to do the treatment, and depending on your mite levels as well.
Okay. And then the next question from Anthony, I think you have actually answered this one already. Do the strips have any effects on brood development under the strips like other treatments? And I believe you did answer that one already. So you said that when the strips are wet, they don't, but when she doesn't tend to lay, but then afterwards she will.
Right, but on the brood it does, like any other treatment. The strips are wet, so in that 1 inch wide, the strip is 1 inch wide, so you would expect that in that particular area, that the brood that is in direct contact with that, the strip is wet, so that brood might get affected by that. But it doesn't affect the brood next to it, or it doesn't affect the brood in the colony. But the reality is when you put some kind of strip where the brood is, it will have an effect, either a physical effect or a chemical effect. In this case, it's a physical effect. You're putting something in there that the bees, for the first day, they can't really go under the strip and feed that larva and take care of the larvae.
Okay. And then a question came in from Mary. I have heard that you need to do 2 right in a row. And I'm assuming she means the treatments back to back.
You have to, again, depending on your mite levels and what time of the year. But yes, that is recommended to do 2 consecutive treatments, because this is a contact application, so it will not kill the mites that are under the caps. It's only kill the mites that are on the bees. It's sporadic mites only.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I think we've answered all the questions there. So let me just scroll back through here real quick.
Okay.
Okay, this is actually a very important question for the Maryland beekeepers here. They had heard that Hopguard 3 could not be shipped to Maryland. Do we know if Hopguard 3 has an approval in the state of Maryland? I'm pretty sure it does, but obviously we want to make sure of that.
Yes, it is approved in Maryland.
Okay.
I think, have to check, but yes, let me write it down, because we do have that. you know how the registration works, right? The EPA gives you a general registration. You
Hmm.
are good to register the product, and then you have to go state by state and register in every single state.
Okay, and the question, or the Mary's saying last summer Man Lake would not ship, although Sybil Preston, our state apiarist, is giving us a thumbs up. So I'm assuming she's saying that yes, it is able to
Yeah,
ship.
in Maryland it is. I will double check,
Okay,
but I'm 100% sure that it is.
okay,
I think if Man Lake didn't ship last year, I saw kind of in the chat that Man Lake didn't ship last year, is because, again, we need approval from every single state. Even though the EPA give us the green light to go and the label is approved, we have to go to every single state and present the label, and the state have to go through their process and paperwork. So if it's not approved in the state, we can't sell it. That's the only reason, but it's approved in all 50 states.
okay, excellent, excellent. And yeah, that can be quite a process. I've had to go through that myself, helping other registrants get registered for their products. So, you know, we do appreciate you guys taking the time to get all 50 states, because that definitely helps. Okay. Yeah, they said it was a state approval issue. So I guess we're good on that one. Okay. Well, I don't see any more questions in the chat. We'll keep it over for just a second longer here. We got a good attaboy from Dave, so we really appreciate the presentation. With that, I'm going to put up the donation slide one more time and just say that if you guys are able to help support our program, we greatly appreciate it. Fabiana, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule today to come on and chat with us. And I would encourage beekeepers, if you are using the product this summer, give me some feedback, or the spring, or whenever you decide to use it. Give me some feedback on it. I'd love to hear what your experiences are with it. And if you have any questions, you can shoot them myself or to Fabiana, of course. I'm always interested in hearing the questions that you guys have, because I can guarantee if you have the question, somebody else does. And so we want to make sure that we're providing you guys with as much information as you can. Actually, before we go, we do have a little bit of time. Somebody asked the question about nothing on MegaBee. Do you want to take a second and talk about that, or?
Sure.
Okay.
MegaBee was a fun project. I worked on it for a long time on that, and developing the diet with Dr. Gordon Wardell back in Tucson, Arizona. And then I moved into the Hopguard, so I'm not involved in MegaBee anymore. I was involved in the research of MegaBee, but I'm not involved on the sales aspect of the MegaBee. I know that MegaBee, they've been working very hard to bring MegaBee to the market, and they do sell MegaBee. I don't have information on that. I believe they have a website, megabee.com, I believe it is, so you can check there and see if there is any product on that. It's a good diet for bees. It's a very complex diet with vitamins and amino acids and fats and oils and everything that the bees need. It's a good diet. So if you have a chance to get your hands on MegaBee, please use it. It's a good diet for your bees.
Sounds like a great lead for future webinars. So we might have to talk to them to come chat with a little bit. Judy had a question as well. The Honeybee Health Coalition be updating the guide to include Hopguard 3? Judy, I think they will. If not, I will put some pressure on them to hopefully get that done sooner than later. So that way I think Hopguard 2, if I remember correctly, is the one that's in the guide right now. So
yes, I was working with escapes my mind about updating the Hopguard 3 information on the Honeybee Health Coalition. Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll make sure to follow up with that as a request, because that's a very good point. And then I guess one of the last questions here is, how do we obtain a link to review PowerPoints and presentations? Those will actually be available on the Bee Squad Facebook page, which is UMDB Squad, or on umdbsquad.com. Or if you search on YouTube under B Squad or UMDB Squad, you'll find our page. Usually takes about 24 hours for the video to process before I can post it, but I'll get it up there as quick as we can. So with that, I think we're good for the evening. And again, thank you so much for your time, and look forward to seeing you at a conference here, hopefully sooner than later.
I hope so. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for the invitation. I really enjoyed it. I really did. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. And we're going to go ahead and close the room now. So if you guys have any questions or anything like that for the future, shoot us an email and we'll be glad to answer them for you. Thanks so much and have a great night, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.